Okay, we are here with our guest for tonight, another talented Aussie-based producer who plays under the alias Mind Mirror. Please welcome Andrew McGill-Brown.
How's it going, guys?
How's it going, man?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We always start with a bit of a background question just to set the scene to the listeners. Are you able to give us a little background story to your alias name and how or what influenced the start of your musical career?
Okay, so Mind Mirror was inspired by just a general sense of kind of wanting to give a vibe of like introspection and reflection. So Mind Mirror to me kind of means our minds do act like mirrors and we reflect other people's behavior and that sort of thing. And that's what motivated the name. I wanted to have that as something that was going to be a sort of key idea to the music project because I want to be able to kind of transmit that on the dance floor when I write my tracks and perform. And, well, I mean, just being inspired by other artists. So I had always been really interested in listening to music. Never really thought that I could make music. I always had a bit of a pipe dream that I was going to be a guitarist because I really like a lot of metal bands when I was younger and always felt like guitar was like the main element that I was really listening to when I was listening to those tracks and following. But that never really eventuated. I ended up getting Ableton in the first place with the intention of recording into it a guitar, but then sort of left that behind and started watching electronic music tutorial videos and that sort of took off. So it was never really a fully conscious decision to start writing music. Kind of just naturally happened out of a little bit of curiosity and deciding that if those guys can do it, why not me? Like, I don't really believe so much in the idea of talent, so I didn't really think that I needed to have some special element just to be able to make music. So yeah, here I am.
So, being heavily interested in the progressive styles of Psy, what other genres or other styles have influenced your overall sound?
So, yeah, like I mentioned, heavy metal was a huge influence when I was young. So a lot of the sort of new metal bands that were coming out of the United States around the time that I was like 16, so Lamb of God, like Killswitch Engage, Korn, but mostly Deftones and Tool. They were a huge influencing factor for me musically. And there's plenty more, but they're the sort of main ones. I come from a place called Invercargill in New Zealand. It's right down the bottom of the South Island. And there wasn't really a huge amount of electronic music there at all. So obviously dubstep and drum and bass is huge in New Zealand. But for whatever reason, it never really come right down south. We had a huge metal scene, but didn't really have much electronic. So I never really heard of drum and bass and dubstep at all until I moved to Melbourne. So that wasn't really much of an influence, but I did start listening to a particular genre of music called Witch House. If you guys have ever listened to that, somehow I stumbled across that. It's electronic music. It's kind of like...
Witch House?
Yeah, it's kind of like creepy music. It's a bit weird. Then started listening to like heavy drum and bass and breakcore, and then dubstep. So that was what I was very interested in. When I first started making music, that's what I was making, like more like breakcore or heavy drum and bass, really metallic and like really distorted bass lines, like just really sort of messed up stuff. And then went to my first psytrance party and fell in love with psychedelic sounds. So then now I'm trying to figure out how to make that aggressive metallic stuff work well with the psychedelic stuff and figure out how to go forward. But like you mentioned, progressive psytrance is hugely inspiring to me. So artists within that genre would be guys like Protonica, typically like Zen Mechanics and Symbolic. They're the artists, Eclipse as well, that really sort of turned me onto that style. But now I feel like I kind of want to reboot what they were doing sort of back in 2014, 2012. Like I feel like the genre has moved along quite a bit, but sort of lost that, or at least for what I'm listening to and finding at the moment, sort of lost that real like space traveler feeling to it. Maybe I'm just getting a bit jaded, but yeah, I'm going to try and rediscover how I can reinvent that.
How would you describe your music for those who haven't heard it before?
So it's what I've been making more recently would probably be best described as a crossover between progressive psytrance and full-on psytrance, because it's a bit faster than what you'd typically get with progressive psytrance. Occasionally I use a lot of like sort of choir or godly type sounds. I really do typically like those sounds. Kind of has that sort of churchy sort of vibe to it at times, or something along those lines. Progressive and full on mix, that's what I'd say.
Awesome.
You were saying off mic earlier, you have had this big interest in, the percussive soundscape side of Zenon-esque style music.
Yeah.
Explaining, trying to incorporate those kind of elements with your own full-on style of production. Is that something that you think you'll incorporate on the regular with upcoming productions at the moment? How are you finding these kind of styles?
Yeah, so the Xenon style really inspires me in the percussive manner because I feel like they're more free to do things. I feel like the other styles of psytrance have become formulaic in the sense that if you really want to be one of the recognized like full-on producers, it has sort of boiled down to quite a specific formula that you need to incorporate in order to have a track considered.
Almost as if falling to a specific criteria.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like that's a little bit suffocating or limiting to an extent. It depends on what way you want to look at it. I don't want to look at it too negatively. Xenon to me is more free in the sense that, yeah, they kind of just seem to follow their nose and do whatever they want, or at least it gives that sort of perception that it's a bit more of an open style at this point in time. And maybe it will eventually boil down to being more formulaic in the future. So I think that if I can incorporate that sort of percussion in the faster styles, because full on, like I was saying before, typically has a very like rigid style of percussion that goes with it. It's not until you start getting into the more Aja style of full on, which is a little bit away from the normal sort of nano records of sacred technology sort of vibe. That's really what people are listening to a lot of now, because they seem to be getting the most coverage. Even, yeah, in a lot of other ways, it's really standardized type of music. I want to somehow maintain the fact that it is going to be a psychedelic trance track while still trying to throw curveballs, and it's quite hard to figure out how to kind of do that. So I think if you take a little bit from here and a little bit from there and mix it together, you kind of end up making a bit of a hybrid, which hopefully will have some unique elements to it.
So as a producer and a DJ, what do you find more rewarding, writing the music or seeing people's reaction whilst playing those tunes on the dance floor?
Probably writing the music, because so far that's mainly what I've experienced. It's more just being in the studio. I have had the opportunity to see my music being played to a dance floor, and occasionally on very small dance floors playing my own music as well. But in that particular circumstances, I've been sort of more interested in what I think of it rather than focusing on what the other people are saying about it. I am quite sort of shy and reserved about showing the music to people, but I feel like that's something that needs to be overcome at some point, like obviously. But you know, as your confidence grows as a producer and you grow, I feel like music production in general is like a self-help course. It kind of helps you with self-confidence and like believing in yourself and these sorts of things. Yeah, as I continue, I'll pay more attention to the dance floor, and as I get on bigger dance floors and drop, a sneaky tune here and there and see what people think of it. It's quite easy to read when you're playing like a professional track. You mix into yours, and do people sort of stay on board or do they disappear? It's pretty evident. So yeah, at the moment, totally get the satisfaction from the studio, but also from live streaming. I live stream a lot. People come along and ask me questions, sometimes give me suggestions, sometimes just sort of...
You live stream regularly on YouTube and Facebook, or
just YouTube?
Just YouTube.
Yeah. And so yeah, people come and tune in and watch. So all of the music that's up on my SoundCloud has been made on the live stream. So if people want to actually know how was that made, there's the videos. But yeah, if they really wanted to watch all of that, they would spend a lot of time, because there's So, and some people do. Some people literally watch all the live stream videos. It blows my mind. I can't believe that people really want to like sit there and watch like the whole damn thing.
As we've mentioned, you live stream and you also hold workshops through your collective intelligence production classes. What motivated you to take this path?
Well, I learned entirely from watching tutorials on YouTube. The reason I started teaching in the first place, or going down that sort of educational approach, was mainly because I wanted to quit working 9 to 5 in a sort of job that I wasn't really that interested in. It seemed like if I could transition into teaching and making a living out of something more positive like that, then it would have been beneficial to me. So I started doing tutorials in person and teaching people, and there seemed to be quite a positive response to it, like from my teaching style, because essentially what I was teaching was how to use Ableton, and I learned how to use Ableton to a decent extent fairly quickly. Like, my music wasn't decent, but my ability of teaching Ableton was. So I started the tutorials, and then I put some stuff up online. I made a kick and bass tutorial for Psytrance and left the country for like a 9 months overseas trip. And whilst I was overseas, like, heaps of people were commenting on the video and saying, dude, why aren't you making more videos? So that really encouraged me to keep doing that. Mm-hmm. And then just as a natural like evolution out of it, I sort of gained the confidence and thought, well, why is nobody running like workshops? Like, well, people were running workshops, but not specifically for psychedelic music. And that seemed really confusing to me, because Melbourne was always sort of well known for being a huge psytrance location for people that wanted to listen to that style of music. So I had Jackson, Sumaruna, and Nick Formations. And I thought, like, okay, these guys are friendly, nice guys. I wonder whether they'd be interested in teaching people how to make music. So I asked them, and they were keen. So I found a location, started selling tickets, got some, graphic design done for it. And then like something like 40 people or something turned up to the first workshop. And clearly that was an idea that people were into.
Yeah.
And then for the live streaming, it's hard to say how I got into live streaming. It was the best thing for my production I've ever done, because first of all, it encouraged me to not give a fuck like about what people think of your process or whatever else, because I really think that that's something that is super important when you're making music. Like, it doesn't matter how you get to the outcome. There's so many people that will sit back and judge you based on if you use a sample or preset or whatever else. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Like, the people on the dance floor, 90% of them that are enjoying the music, they don't know that it come from a freaking sample pack or whatever. I do feel like there's creative integrity or whatever, but I don't think that gets compromised if you want to use a couple of samples and mangle them and use a preset and tweak it to make it your own or whatever. Like, whatever inspires you, I think that's what matters. So it really opened me up to just doing whatever the hell I wanted with production, facing critique, because people will come on and talk shit to you when you are live streaming. So dealing with that, I'm not very good at dealing with it, because I'm a bit of a smartass. So I typically like say dumb shit back to them and realize like, don't feed the trolls. And yeah, just building recognition. Like, I have a huge amount of recognition, but bugger all music to show for it. So I need to get the music finished to catch up with all the people that want to hear what I'm doing, because I've got such a huge audience on YouTube and they're incredibly supportive. Like, it's insane. Like, I thought that they were just there to listen to the tutorials and learn themselves, but nah, man, they want to hear what I'm making and they want to see me perform. They are very vocal about it. So yeah.
How often do you stream on your channel, your YouTube channel?
2 days a week. So my days off are Sunday and Monday. So I've been trying to stick to that routine. Obviously, due to the Christmas period and everything, it gets a little bit out of whack. But yeah, that's what keeps me disciplined. That's another reason why it was so good. It's because it's like 2 hours a week. I know that I'm spending pretty much at least 4 hours a day in the studio producing stuff. It benefits me. It benefits the people that get to watch. So yeah, it keeps me honest to that routine, so it's good.
What will you be playing for our listeners on KissFM tonight?
The opening track is by an artist called Middle Mode, and these guys were pretty much the first artists that really made me realize, like, oh shit, I really like that style of sort of mix between progressive and full on. So that's the opening track. There's a few artists in there from Nano Records, like Earthspace, Avalon, who for a long time was one of my favorite producers. There's a bunch of my own originals. I think there's 4 or 5 original tracks in there, followed by a couple more Nano Records tracks, tuned by an artist called Jantrix, if you guys have heard of Jantrix.
Yeah,
he's got some
from Macedonia.
Yeah, he's got some really cool tunes, so I've popped one of them in there. So yeah, it's a starts off a bit more progressive. A guy called Side Effects, if you guys have heard of him.
Yes.
The second tune on the set is called Resting Souls, and I notice every time I play this track, the dance floor loves it. Like, there's something about what he does. Like, people just really enjoy it. I'm surprised he's not more prolific. Like he is pretty big. Like if you look at him on Facebook and stuff, but
I've heard plenty of tunes.
Yeah,
from,
yeah.
Absolutely.
He just doesn't seem to have ever been in Australia, from what I can recognise, or whatever. And I don't know whether he still actively plays. I think he does, but yeah. But really cool tunes. Not just that track. A lot of his other stuff as well. He's got another tune called Mind Control, which is a really wicked tune. So,
well, thank you for coming on the show tonight, sharing your sound and a little insight into your creative brain. What's the best spot where people can find your music? SoundCloud?
Yep. So SoundCloud's got tracks up on there. So it's just soundcloud.com/MindMirrorNZ. And then Facebook is a good place to keep up to date. So just look up Mind Mirror or Collective Intelligence on Facebook. And if you're on YouTube, look up Collective Intelligence. So should be the first result coming up there.
Yes, check out his very awesome, informative channel there on YouTube.
Yes, absolutely. I've learnt so goddamn much from your channel, mate. Thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
Absolutely appreciate it. Until the next time.
Cool. Thanks, guys.